Hello, citizens of Gotham. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching the Political Vigilante from beautiful El Salvador. I flew down here. It's gorgeous. We're outside. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little hot. I'm making sure I'm staying hydrated. You guys stay hydrated here. And I have a very special guest. So, one of the reasons I came down here is I wanted to see for myself about how Bitcoin is changing the country and what it's like to live down here. So I have my guest is Francesco Berbati from the Money Delics podcast, and he's also going to do an interview with me. So we want Political Vigilante fans to go to his show. We want his show to come over to my show. So I reached out to you because I got involved in crypto and Bitcoin. I now understand the two separate things, but I know that's a big topic, especially in this country. And so I started following it, and as I got more educated, I wanted to educate my audience. So I was already watching Max Kaiser's show, the Kaiser Report on RT, and he would talk about it a little bit, and I started following him. So I had him on my show about 2 years ago, literally, I think April or May of 2021. And he really explained to me, and to my audience as well, the difference between Bitcoin and the altcoins. Right? He calls them shitcoins, of course. He doesn't pull back at all. So I follow him, and I started following more Bitcoiners on Twitter. And when I saw a couple months ago that El Salvador is being changed in such a short amount of time, you're somebody who came up on my Twitter feed, and as somebody that is you moved down here. So tell everybody your story, because you're Italian, you're not El Salvadorian. What got you first into Bitcoin, and then how did you find your way down to El Salvador?
Okay, so what got me into Bitcoin initially was, as most people, greed.
Yes.
Trying to make money
Sure.
quickly with
Sure.
crypto, and the last whole thing online, and you go on YouTube, you find all this YouTube garbage of channels on trading, how to make money. The next crypto coin is gonna go to 1,000. It's all garbage and scam. Sadly, that's how I got it here anyway. And that was part of my journey. I don't hide it. It's something that it's important that people know, because a lot of people are still in that stage, and eventually they will get to the next stage, hopefully. And
I think that's important, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I think it's a thing. All of us that are in crypto that understand now the difference between Bitcoin and our Bitcoin maximalists, I think we all got to remember to be patient.
Yep.
The way people were patient with us.
Correct.
Most people didn't get into it in 2011 like Max Kaiser, right? Most people got into it 2017, 2018, 2019, whatever. So I'm glad you're bringing that up, because it's important.
Yes, because I think it's very important. Education is very important, and to educate somebody, you need to understand them. So you cannot attack them. You need to empathize with them. Remember, when I was there at that point, what someone should have told me to make me understand, maybe faster or better, And so that's kind of my approach, with the shitcoiners, as Max Kaiser saying. I consider myself, instead of toxic Bitcoin maximalist, I like to consider myself a compassionate Bitcoin maximalist, and I'm trying to get people to understand before they get hurt really bad. Because a lot of people, the expression, playing stupid games, so a lot of people get hurt.
Yeah.
With, I know me, myself, I know a lot of people that, lost money because of these casinos.
Well, I mean, I lost my home in the housing crisis. It's one of the things that attracted me to Bitcoin but then, I saw even just last year with FTX, I joined, BlockFi. I got the BlockFi credit card to earn Bitcoin, and I was staking on BlockFi until Max Kaiser said, don't. And I'm glad I pulled it off. I get the majority of it off. I made one little purchase in early November that I forgot to pull off, and now they're holding it. And I'm like, man, everyone who said get it off the exchanges is onto a cold wallet, they were right. But like you say, it's good to be, I like the term compassionate Bitcoin maximalist.
Yeah, I just want to help people not go through maybe what I've gone through, because now I understand it, and maybe if we can save people money, it's better. And what helped me really understand Bitcoin was actually moving here to El Salvador. And as you said, I'm from Italy, originally born and raised. I lived in Europe, in Germany, Norway. After Norway, I moved to Florida. So I was there 9 years ago. I lived in Florida for 8 years, and last year I moved here to El Salvador. Now, initially I moved here to El Salvador because I was looking at Plan B. War just started with Putin and the other guy, Zelensky, in Ukraine. And I learned that I was next to a nuclear target, a naval base in Jacksonville. So I decided with my wife, let's look for an option, for a plan B if things escalate, because it doesn't look like anybody really wants to de-escalate the situation. We are still here, indeed, after it's been a while now. And so we came here to check first that the country was safe, because we have 2 little children. I'm a little paranoid about safety. Actually, I didn't want to go to Latin America or even Brazil. My wife is from Brazil, because of safety concerns. Because I'm a little paranoid.
Fala português.
Pouco.
Só pouco. Ah, foi bom, foi bom.
And so we came here, and we felt safe. We liked the country. We fell in love with the people, like super nice, polite, very respectful, with adults and with children. Very different than Europe or Florida, also very different than United States or Europe. And at the beginning, we were just taking a short vacation, but after the first half of the trip, we realized we didn't like it here, so we started looking at real estate. So instead of vacationing for the second part of the week, we checked out the country, and we do the real estate tours, like everywhere, to get to know all the places where we would like to live. We go back to Florida, and we had another month and a half of a lease. And you have a lease, you don't want to waste the money and then come here. But I think it was 1 week in Florida, and my wife and I would look at each other and realize, what are we doing here? There's nothing left for us here. So it's just, we were initially selling things slowly, but then we just give it away because we want to come here. We knew we were going to lose a month of rent, but we think it was the right decision. And there were challenges at the beginning moving here. Of course, when one of the most stressful events in someone's life, I think after divorce, is relocation.
Especially to another country.
We did that to another country. Now, we are used to move. We have been moving a lot as digital nomads. So it was not that hard. Like a lot of friends of mine have been living in the same city since they were born. I've been moving. So I understand that for them it would be a lot more difficult than it was for me. We were used to. Even our kids are so used to move that when we got here, they asked, "No, when are we going next year?" No, I think we're gonna stay here for a while. So we came here, and there was a little bit of a cultural shock. Of course, it's very different than Florida. The roads, the way people drive, stray animals, trash. It's still a developing country, but what I say is that this is the only developing country that I know of in the world right now. Because other countries are not really developing, are either getting worse, or just staying flat in the best cases. So this is the only place that, as far as it goes, as far as my knowledge goes, it looks like it's getting better. And I've been here 12 months now, little over 12 months, and in 12 months only, in 1 year only, I can see how the country has changed, has improved. It's crazy.
What specifically have you seen in 12 months?
So, roads are better since I was here. A lot of roads in the city or coming from San Salvador to the beach area, they've been expanded. So the infrastructure is improving and fast. They also secured, have you seen the road that is in between the mountains? And every time there is a storm, like last year during rainy season, like every day there was something on the road, trees, rocks, car accident. So now they've secured that. So I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a lot safer this year. Another thing, for instance, you told me you've been to the city center, historical center in San Salvador. If you were there 12 months ago, you wouldn't see anything. Architecture, the church, you wouldn't see anything because it was all covered and crowded by the tiendas, by people, stores, or it was a mess. But now you can go in the city center in San Salvador. It's really nice. It's clean. They have repainted everything. Is beautiful. So when
Yeah,
I
they have
was
the
there,
lights on the building. I was there last night.
oh, you went there at night? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
we walked into the National Theater, Teatro Nacional, and they had a little like teenagers were doing like a concert. And they let us watch the last 15 minutes of it. It was fantastic.
And what I've been told from the locals, from Sandy also, that she was the tour guide.
Sandy Waves is my tour guide.
Yeah.
Look her up online if you ever come down here.
And she's the same tour guide that took me there to visit it. And she told me that in the past there was, first it was dangerous. You would not go there safely with your camera, making videos. People would
Yeah.
take things off of your hands. And
Your camera guy, by the way, your producer,
Mhm.
is wearing a hat, and he said you couldn't wear a hat in parts of El Salvador because someone would steal it off your head. There's a local guy, Eduardo, just said that to me about 15 minutes ago. So now he can wear a hat, and no one's going to steal his hat. That's huge.
Yeah. Or even you can go in areas that in the past were considered no-go zone because they were infested and controlled by the gang members. And we went there with our expensive gear to make videos. Now it's safe, you can walk there. It's crazy. It's completely different than it was 12, 16, 24 months ago in this country. Which is interesting because when you live in other places, either Europe or the United States, that you see things getting worse every year. You kind of, it becomes your framework, like the way of saying life and society, oh, it's gonna get worse, it is what it is. But then you come here, and in 12 months I've seen things getting better, and I start thinking, wait a second, things can actually get better. Like, there is a little bit of hope.
Okay, there's not there's not a lot of hope in America right now, nor in Europe. I did a 6-week tour through Europe doing shows in October, and look, it was wonderful. It was nice. I hadn't been to Europe in 20 years or whatever, or parts of it 20 years. And you know, we have beautiful. I went to Ireland and Sweden, countries I hadn't been to before. But you know, with the war in Ukraine, it's like there's a lot of tension. And then in America, because of the recession, we're in a recession in America. They don't want to admit it, but we're in one. And in coming back to Los Angeles, I hadn't lived there for 2 years because I was traveling mainly, in Hawaii and stuff. The homeless problem's worse, the crime's worse. I mean, it is, and I've lived in Los Angeles for 25 years. And and I love LA. There's a lot of people who don't like, I love LA. It's a great city. There's all this cool stuff to do. I work in the entertainment industry. All these creative people are there. There's 11 professional sports teams. There's music and art. There's everything you want to do there. Surfing, skiing, everything. And it's like this for the first time. I'm like, I don't know if I want to.
It's crazy, huh?
I don't feel safe.
That is crazy. And you also bring up a good point. Like when I was living in Florida, and I lived throughout all Florida on the East Coast, from Miami, Boca Raton, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, and last time I was in North Florida, Jacksonville. I didn't feel safe everywhere, every time, especially at night. Here is very different. Here I feel safe when I go out. I don't feel in danger, and I think it's two things, because in the United States you might not only be worried about criminals, you might also be worried about normal people. They just go out with their fucking mind and they snap in 1 second, and
they have a gun.
They might have a gun too, and so
you knock on someone's door in America, they might shoot you. If you just knock on the door and say, hey, my car broke down, if they're paranoid or crazy or whatever, you look scary to them.
If you're in distress, yeah. And we came here with my wife and we experienced a totally different social environment with people. Like, we as gringo, if you're in trouble and you ask help to anybody in the road, they're gonna come to you and help you. You might not even need to ask for help. Like I was checking the liquids in my car like a while ago, and someone just stopped and asked me if I needed help. No, thank you. Just checking. Like people stop to actually offer help, even if you don't ask them. Or I remember I was looking for, as a white spoiled gringo from Florida, I was looking for organic white rice. Okay, it's a little challenging to find it. I was at this organic fruit tienda, it's a little store, the tienda here. And the lady says, wait a second, let me ask the owner. She goes to the owner, so she introduced me to the owner of the store, and he told me, you know what, I don't have it, but maybe they have it at the store. So in Spanish, he gives me the direction to go there. But he actually took me there. So he drove together with me, we were in 2 cars, and then we were in the store, and he was looking with me. It was like an Asian store, so I guess that's why you expected to find different variety of rice. And it's funny because he was on the shelves looking with me, and do you think this is good enough for you? Is organic enough for you, gringo? So, but that's just to explain how people are different here,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And they don't expect anything in return, you know? Now, things changes when you have or you are in a business or some sort of contractual relationship here, you know, because they solve the problem of violent crime, like arresting almost all the gang members. But of course, it's a Latin American country, the people come from struggle and poverty, so they will try to scam you if they have the chance. Not everybody, I'm saying,
Sure.
this petty crime, these things still happen,
Sure.
you know? But it's still, I feel like it's a lot less endemic than in the United States.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy.
How have you seen specifically? So obviously Bukele locked up all the criminals. He did it in one day apparently, which is amazing to me. How do you see now, since you're active in the Bitcoin community, so far I've been to El Zonte and El Tunco, right? So El Zonte, obviously, that's for people watching, that's Bitcoin Beach. And it seems like about 90% of the stores there all accept Bitcoin. Maybe in El Tunco, it seems like more like 60, 70%. Maybe San Salvador is about 50%. So it's not everywhere, but it's way more prevalent than anywhere else that I've seen. How have you seen it in the 12 months you've lived here, of how specifically Bitcoin is helping people, the locals?
So let's touch on adoption first, because Bitcoin adoption is still in the country it varies a lot from area to area. As you experience you go in El Zonte to Bitcoin Beach where everything started, pretty much almost every store accept Bitcoin. El Tunco is close to Bitcoin
For the
Beach.
audience, I want to make this very clear too. I put some videos out there just showing me how easy, the people that have accepted it, it is so easy. I was instructed to get this by Sandy Waves, this Phoenix wallet. I put some Bitcoin on it. They show you a QR code, boom, bam. I mean, I bought $1.25 worth of water with Bitcoin. So which made me go, wow, we really just have to get over this convincing people how, like, it seems so confusing and crazy, but then when you do that, it's so easy. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to show people to watch more videos where you can see how quickly it happens.
That's a good point, because some people are intimidated by Bitcoin because it can be extremely complicated. But at the same time, even internet or your phone, how it works, is extremely complicated. But you don't go and learn coding or
No. You learn the satellites. You don't
have to learn that, you know, because with software, with designer and coder, that makes everything easier and simpler for us civilians that are not tech people, you know. And so the same thing is happening with Bitcoin. So, sure, 5, 6, 10 years ago, it was very complicated. It was very nerdy and geeky. But today, everybody can download a Phoenix wallet, send some Bitcoin to it, come here and pay for whatever you want to buy Bitcoin, and it takes a second. The fees are super low. And so, one of the criticism of Bitcoin, that's why all the other shitcoin came to existence, is because Bitcoin is low, Bitcoin is expensive to move, and that problem has been solved. Okay, with the Lightning Network, which is a layer 2 on top of Bitcoin. But to go back to the topic of adoption, you will find that adoption rates varies a lot depending on where you are in the country. Okay. With that being said, in my personal experience being here 12 months, I can tell that adoption is growing, and there are a lot more stores that accept Bitcoin. I'll make you an example. So, in El Salvador, there is Price Mart, which is the Costco of El Salvador. Okay, and I think up to 6 or 7 months ago, they didn't accept Bitcoin, or it didn't work really well. But now, it works flawlessly. So you can go, imagine going a Costco in the United States, buying $300 worth of food, stock for 2 weeks, and big packs, and paying with Bitcoin. Here you can do it, and I do it, you know, every week, and it's crazy. Or yeah, we can also pay for our kids' haircut with Bitcoin. I think the weirdest thing I pay for Bitcoin maybe is capoeira lessons for my kids. So not everybody accept Bitcoin, but we are getting there. We are getting there fast, and I think in less than 2 years, El Salvador will be on a Bitcoin standard. That's my bullish prognostication.
It makes sense because, first of all, President Bukele is saying it's the national currency, so he just said that. And obviously, you're not going to get 6.5 million people overnight to just, and every store is going to have it overnight. That's not going to happen. But him doing that, and then these laws that I'm hearing about that I'm sure you can expand on, where they're encouraging businesses to come down here and use Bitcoin for their business, and it's tax-free. Now that's huge, because one thing I know about rich people, they don't like paying taxes at all. And in big corporations, they don't like paying it in any way, shape, or form. So if they can make money in Bitcoin and not have to pay taxes on it, that's massive. And I think too, going back to the adoption, it's a small country, right? Where a lot of people know each other, a lot of people are related. So the word is going to get out. Someone's going to say, my cousin owns a little, is selling pupusas with Bitcoin, and now they have all this money. So they're going to go, okay, how do I get my coffee shop to do this now,
So here is the thing. First of all, we have two great companies here that are educating the country about Bitcoin. One is Bitcoin Beach, and the other one is My First Bitcoin, or Mi Primer Bitcoin here in El Salvador. They're doing a great job. Mi Primer Bitcoin alone teaches Bitcoin to 5,000 plus people every month, and they're growing exponentially. The other thing is that, as you said, what you talk about is the network effect. So we have seen how that develops online, but now we are seeing how it develops actually on real life. And here is the thing. El Salvador has something in my mind that is actually slowing down Bitcoin adoption, is that it doesn't have the necessity of Bitcoin, because here they use the dollar. So what happened is that the dollar is probably the less shitty of all the shit coins that that the government inflates. What's the word? That the government expanding the monetary supply.
The printing of the money, you mean?
Yeah, the printing of the money, so they inflate the currency, so it loses value. One, because it's the dollar, for many reasons that I'm sure you're aware of, it loses value less fast than all the other currencies. And so what happens if you go to Africa or other Latin American countries where they have their own fiat currency that loses 50% of the value every month? What happens is that there they have the necessity of Bitcoin. Here, because they have the dollar, it works pretty much. It loses value, but everybody's used to inflation. It's normal, our brain is used to it. Don't really worry too much about it. Okay, and so what happened is that two things. One, the dollar will hyperinflate, and if you study the story of currencies, fiat currencies, all fiat currencies end up hyperinflating and then going to zero as a value. Number one. Number two, once Bitcoin, it's another bull run, and the value of Bitcoin goes skyrockets. What happens is that people will be interested, either because they want to make money with Bitcoin, or because they want to save their savings, their money, because the dollar is losing too much value too fast now, like it happens in Argentina, Turkey, Venezuela, and all these other countries. Okay. So if one of these two events happens within the next 1 or 2 years, Bitcoin will be adopted much faster, not only here in El Salvador, but also everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, I feel that too. I feel like America's on the brink of a financial collapse just because there's a lot of data out there. There's a real estate bubble. There's a commercial real estate bubble in America, especially since COVID. All these companies, people have just, why are we spending all this money on office space when most people are now working remotely? So there's all this, just in Los Angeles, but every American city I've been to, and I've been to about a dozen of them in the last year or two, maybe more. There's a very similar pattern, which is there's a lot of empty businesses, and that money is not being spent, and that's going to come down. And then now you're seeing with BRICS, the BRICS countries, everyone's ditching the dollar. The dollar was the world's reserve currency, and history is history. I mean, the British pound was the world's reserve currency, and then that's gone. So we're going to see. I mean, the BRICS countries are now inviting Venezuela, which has the number one oil reserves in the world. Saudi Arabia is, so Saudi has been beholden to the United States, but they're not going to have to be much longer. All these countries, many of them in Central and South America, that have been sanctioned by the United States, which is an act of warfare, then the United States is going to lose its economic power. And I think a big financial collapse, while it would be scary in the short term, in the long run would, as you say, would force people into Bitcoin adoption, and it would probably force a lot of the institutional money. That's the real thing that's going to move the needle, is when,
probably,
$2 trillion in assets come pouring into Bitcoin, then...
I mean, here's the thing. If you study Bitcoin game theory and you study a little bit of history of fiat currency and monetary systems, you understand why Bitcoin is inevitable.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just a matter of time, and the great thing about Bitcoin is that it aligns everybody in sync. So either if you get to Bitcoin because you just want to make more money from the comfort of your Miami condo, or because your Venezuelan bolivar that loses 100% of the value every year and you need to save somehow, or because you're in El Salvador and you want to learn what is the government doing now with this legal tender Bitcoin currency, or if you're BlackRock and you want to make money for your stockholders or whatever the crap that they do back there, you're going to get into Bitcoin. So somehow everybody will be forced into Bitcoin. What happens at that point, in my opinion, is that since Bitcoin is money that is not controlled or cannot be governed by a central point of failure or a central authority, whether it's the White House or the European Central Bank or the Fed or the Chinese Communist Party, what happens is that at that point, people will be able to freely hone their purchasing power, which, if you think about it, only represents your lifetime and energy, right? Because we work hard, we take time to work, to learn skills, to bring them to to the marketplace, to bring value to society somehow, to exchange with other people, whatever is their knowledge or skill or goods that they're producing, whatever is apples or houses or cars. But at that point, everybody knows that there's no government that can either confiscate that money from you, because if you learn self-custody, you memorize 12 or 24 words, and it's going to be very hard for everybody to force you to give up their money, or even to force you to stay in the same place, because a lot of people are trapped because their business is there, their house, everything, and they cannot escape their country, they lose everything. Or with Bitcoin, you convert everything into Bitcoin and you go to the next place that you like. So there are all these incentives that bring everybody to Bitcoin. Once everybody has Bitcoin, then we level the rule of the game. Because as of now, the closer you are to the money printer, the more power, influence, and privileges you have, right? But when there's no money printer, everybody, you're gonna have to be fair to each other to figure out how to work together. They cannot come to us and tell us what to do, because they're gonna print more money and our saving loses 50% of our value.
That's a great way to put it. And I think you already kind of gave the answer to my next question, but I want to ask this question. Because I see a lot of, just in the couple, 3-4 days I've been here, a lot of potential here. I see the construction happening, just talking to some locals. There's surf competitions have been here, there's business being attracted. The president is passing very favorable laws. So what's to prevent, because I've seen this happen in other places, they didn't have Bitcoin. What's to prevent, though, a bunch of rich gringos and corporations coming down here, buying everything up, and making it so El Salvadorians can't afford to live in their own country?
It's a very good question.
Because I've seen that happen.
Yeah, so for instance, on my YouTube channel that I talk about El Salvador, I get a lot of hate because people tell me, "Oh, you gringo are going there and you're raising the price, the housing prices," and then the locals cannot buy houses. Here's the thing. First of all, initially, the people that come here and buy a house right away, they're not really the gringos, but actually are the diaspora, which are Salvadorian that escaped their country either 40 years ago or 20 years ago because of the Civil War or because of the gangs. And now they know their country is safe, they've made money in Canada and the United States, usually they can come back, of course. They buy right away, it's their country, they know it already. Okay? Or maybe they rebuy the houses of their family, of their moms, of their grandma. Okay? So one thing could be, right now who's raising the prices probably is mostly the Salvadorian that moved away and coming back. But to go and talk about the other scenario, the truth is that I learned this in El Salvador. Unfortunately, in really poor countries, third world countries, there is classism and there are different classes, and it sucks. But for instance, I've never really experienced this from Europe or from the United States. It's very different. You know, you read in the textbooks when you study it, but then when you come and live here, it's people treat this way, like here, it really happens. And so it was a little bit of a cultural shock for me. And so what happened, like, there is a large poor population, there is a very small middle class and a small elite, Salvadoran elite. In a healthy economy, what should happen is that you have a very large and broad middle class. Okay. And then, for any reason, probably there are always going to be people that are super rich, people that are, for any reason. People might not be liked in life, or some people might be more liked for any reason. Okay. And so, what is going to happen in the long term is that, yes, at the beginning, the transition probably is going to make things more expensive. But at the same time, what happens? When all these business come here, when all these people with money come here, what are they doing? They're hiring. They're hiring the locals. They're hiring the people that were the middle class, or because there's going to be a lot of jobs coming in, they're going to hire the poor people here. Not only that, they're going to train them, they're going to teach them skills. So what happens is that you see in the United States, the middle class is shrinking because people falls down, they go to the poor class, or some people make it and go up to the rich class. But here you will see that all this business come here, bring skills, jobs, hopes, and opportunity for the poor people here, especially the newer generation. Okay, that now they can go to school and study and learn Bitcoin, and they have a financial education here. In the past, they were worried about getting recruited or killed or kidnapped by gangs. Now it's different. And so the poor class here, which shrinks because most people will go into the middle class, okay, and they will have a better life for them and their kids after. Of course, this is not a process that is going to happen in a weekend or in one mandate or
even a year.
It's not going to happen in a year. I think seeing how things are moving fast here, I don't know, I'm optimistic. Maybe in 5 years, things are going to be a lot better. In 10 years, 15 years.
And as you say, all those people that are getting jobs, locals that are getting jobs, many of them are going to get paid in Bitcoin. And if the education that, like, the pyramid of Bitcoin and Bitcoin Beach are doing, and if that expands, then hopefully, knock on wood, those people are going to go, oh, I'm going to, pay my bills, but keep some Bitcoin to the side. Save here, so that when Bitcoin keeps going up and up, they're going to go, okay, now we're not poor anymore. Now we do have money. Yeah, that's the thing that's so different, because Bitcoin is the variable that doesn't.
It's gonna level the playing field.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. If you're a big corporation, you're very close to the money printer, so it's very easy for you, even if you don't need it, to borrow money at very favorable rates from the Fed. And since you're so big, what happens? If something goes bad, goes wrong, you have to fail, you have to declare bankruptcy, nothing really happens to you, okay? You're still in business. But if you're a small business owner, and you cannot pay your bills, you cannot pay your electricity bills, you're gonna have a hard time getting a loan, you're gonna have a hard time getting good rates, you're gonna have a hard time staying open. So that's why the middle class, the small businesses, they're getting crushed and destroyed, and you see the monopoly popping up and strengthening themselves. Okay, with Bitcoin, nobody is gonna be close to the money printer, so nobody is gonna be able to get a more favorable loan than or free money. It's not even about loans. It's people getting free money. It's corporations that get free money.
Yes.
You know the Cantillon effect, right? They print the money, they give it to friends and family, they buy yacht, they start Amazon, all those things. By the time this money flows down into the economy, we have inflation. Okay, which it's also another metric that is manipulated. Depends how you want to measure inflation. It can change a lot. For instance, I think right now what's the inflation in the United States? 7%.
That's what they say,
right?
It's probably closer to 14 to 15%.
It's probably closer to that, because when they measure inflation rate, they don't put in their rents. They use owner's equivalent rent. The people that own they don't really know how much are rents.
Yeah.
So that's why we live in this fake society where everything is manipulated and controlled, and things are getting harder and harder, and our brain is kind of wired to accept this, to accept inflation, and to accept that things next year are going to get more expensive, life is going to get harder, the rent is going to go up, right? Because our brain has been programmed with this fiat money that gets inflated by the central banking system, right? But with Bitcoin, you're going to have deflationary money. And people say usually, what's the biggest concern? If the money goes up in value, people won't buy things because they're going to keep their money and the economy is going to slow down or there's going to be a recession. But that is not really true, because you need to buy food every day. You need to buy water. You need to buy a house. So there are things that you're going to have to buy. You're going to save as much as you can, but you're going to have to buy things. Okay? The difference is that people, because now they are incentivized in saving money and do it safely, they won't gamble their money. They won't invest in shitcoins, in NFTs, in the next Apple or Tesla. So you won't need to gamble your money. So what happens? You're gonna be doing what makes you happy, being a comedian. Okay? You're not gonna have to learn investing, because otherwise, you know that you're not gonna retire or that your money is gonna lose value. So you need to figure out how to protect yourself by inflation. Okay? For instance, I had to learn investing a few years ago in the States, because I was learning economy and how money works. I hate investing. I don't want to do that. I had to. But now with Bitcoin, I just save and I spend time with my kids instead of reading the stupid report of Tesla. And I don't care anymore. So once you understand Bitcoin, like, a lot of things in your life change, because you can change your framework about life, about finances. You can change your outlook or your timeline about what you want to do right now. It's another one of the great things about Bitcoin. I don't know if I'm going too much off tangents, but tell me.
These are interesting ideas. I mean, that's the thing that is intriguing to me about Bitcoin, is it brings in a lot of interesting people with interesting ideas about, and a lot of this is like, some of it is opinion and theory, and who knows what's going to happen, but it's interesting opinion and theory to have. And it opens up the door to what I think the thing I like about Bitcoin is better quality of life for people, better, I mean, this like work to the bone, and
I'll make another example. For instance, when you go to a doctor or to a real estate agent or to any professional, a lawyer that offers your service, you want someone that is 100% doing that thing. You don't want someone that has to spend 10-20% of their time learning, investing, checking their stock portfolio, or having to talk to their property manager doing these things. You want someone that is a professional, that knows what he's doing, and that thing hopefully it's also special, so he can really put his heart into it. He doesn't have to learn anything else that doesn't want to, just because he needs to, because we will save in Bitcoin. And again, the government won't debase that because they can, or they won't confiscate it because they can't. So at the point, what happened also? that the government, instead of being in a relationship where it intimidates you, hey, give me your money, or pay me your taxes, or this will happen, they will have to negotiate with you, hey, do you like the roads? Do you want to support it? Send some Bitcoin, right? So taxation changes by being forced to being in a situation where the government now is offering a service. And if you like the service, you will be happy to pay for it. Right?
Yeah.
But how many times we are paying taxes and we are angry? Because
Oh, yeah.
where does this money go? To Ukraine to buy more javelin?
War. Yeah.
Right?
War and Wall Street. In America, the taxes all go for war and Wall Street bailouts and stuff.
Bailouts, yes.
Bail out the rich. Well, let me ask you this final question here, and this has been really fascinating discussion. Is you've been here a year? You've talked a little bit about where you see this going in El Salvador, and how it can really, more adoption will bring more people, pulling them out of poverty. Obviously, everyone I talk to is very happy with the no crime. I mean, it sounds like Bukele has, what, a 91% approval rating? So the 9%'s got to just be the gangsters? I mean, so the two-part question. Obviously, you're seeing money coming in, you're seeing infrastructure. Where in the next 12 to 24 months do you see El Salvador? And more importantly, for anybody else watching out there, the goal of talking about El Salvador is not, hey, the whole world come move here, but how can tell people what's going to be happening in El Salvador based on what you're seeing, and then what people can do in their community to start a Bitcoin beach. I would encourage people to read the Bitcoin Beach white paper. That was really amazing. Their philosophy on it's really being of service. It's giving back. It's not just a bunch of Bitcoin guys. Hey, let's buy Lamborghinis with Bitcoin, which is a part of Bitcoin. I'm like, come on, man. Like we don't need more ugly capitalism. Like we need to help. And so that is and it seems like these circular economies in a little town is how you grow. But anyway, so how do you see it, and how do people grow it?
So in the next 12 to 24 months, though. So honestly, I have a hard time really predicting how this is going to look. You know why? Because as human, for us, it's very hard to understand exponential growth. No? Mm-hmm. We understand linear growth well, but exponential growth is very hard for us to grasp. That's why it's always very hard for masses to understand why internet worked, why an iPhone worked, or why Bitcoin worked. So if you understand it as early as possible, the earlier you understand it, the more you will benefit, right? I think El Salvador changing really fast. I'm amazed every time I drive to the city to take my kids somewhere, and I see, oh wow, they're working, they're building this, they're fixing this piece of infrastructure, they're expanding the road. So I am extremely optimistic for how El Salvador will look in the next 12 to 24 months. And the other thing that I can tell about that is that a lot of people are coming here, they're moving here. And people that come here, they're not the Bitcoiners that want to buy the Lamborghini, they're not like spoiled kids. They are people that are, the chiropractor, the coder, the acupuncturist, what's the other guy, the real estate agent.
So they want to bring their skills and talents to here.
The dentist, yes, a dentist reaching out to me. They want to bring their skill talents, run a business here, train people here, and support this community because they don't like what's going on in their communities, in their home countries. Which is very sad. People don't want to leave their home countries.
It's a crying shame.
Exactly.
But I never thought in a million years I would feel this way about the United States.
Yeah.
It's sad.
I mean, it's funny because I go to the United States and finally I made it, the American dream, and then I realized, oh shit, I'm late to the party. This is going down here. What do I do now? So I was so sad after I realized that. But then I found out about El Salvador. So still hope for me. Yeah. And so I think El Salvador is going to look very different than it looks now. It's going to look a lot better, cleaner, richer, even safer. I think that's my prognostication. Now, how you bring up a good point. So El Salvador is a very small country. Like 6 billion people cannot move to El Salvador. There's no way. So something needs to be done for the other countries in the world. And I think it's important to showcase what's happening to El Salvador, like you are doing, so that other people understand it. Wait a second, there is hope. Things can actually change for the better, and not only for the worst. And use El Salvador as a blueprint, as a okay, how did El Salvador do that? What happened there that made this positive change happen? And then implement it in their communities. And probably the easier thing is for people to understand Bitcoin. And not understand Bitcoin as an investment, as a speculative asset, as gambling. Understand the values and the philosophy of Bitcoin and how that empowers us, the plebs, the lingo, the normal people, that now we can finally control the fruits of our labor, our time and energy and resources, because no government, no army, even no criminal can come and take it from us if we take the precautions and we learn Bitcoin, self-custody, and how that works. And that's the most important thing to understand.
And what I would say to my audience, as I say always, learn about Bitcoin. If you don't understand it, read the Bitcoin white paper. Start with the basics. Go easy on yourself. I didn't get it at first.
Have you read the Bitcoin Standard book?
No, I've heard about this.
Have you
book.
heard of it?
Yeah.
It's a great book. And it explains how the fiat system and central banking is not only a problem for the economies, but for everything, from arts to education, to like the food system, to the medical industry. Like thinking short term, trying to make a quick profit before the value of the money goes down, ruins everything. And you cannot think long term and develop things properly. So I would start from there. It's a great book to understand Bitcoin under a philosophical point of view.
And if you're already a Bitcoin holder, I would start in your town. Get one business that you go to. Mm-hmm. Your gym, your coffee shop, your lawn, your dry cleaner. Yep. Get one business to accept Bitcoin. Or
when you go to a restaurant and you're about to tip the waitress, tip her in Bitcoin. Tip him in Bitcoin. Tip them in Bitcoin. Tell her, hey, I'll give you a little bit more. I'll teach you Bitcoin. Make them download a wallet. It's gonna take 1 minute. You send it to them, and this way they see it in their phone. They start thinking, what is this thing? You make people curious. Or if you're paying for a service and you're in the position to do that, tell them, hey, if you accept Bitcoin, I'm gonna pay a little bit more, just to incentivize you to use it and learn about it. Because you need to give incentive to people, because in the States people have an easy life compared to here, so they don't really have the need to learn it, because they swipe their credit cards or debit card, it works. So,
and if you own a business, offer a Bitcoin discount.
Yes,
like
100%.
You sell let's say you sell T-shirts, and this shirt is normally $30. You pay for it in Bitcoin, it's $20. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Then you're incentivizing people. You're giving them a discount. You're collecting Bitcoin. You're incentivizing people to get comfortable using Bitcoin. So those are my ideas, guys. Francesco, thank you so much, man. This is so cool. It's so beautiful to be here, and I appreciate everything you said. This is the thing that's great about the Bitcoin community. We don't know each other, but we connect on Bitcoin. So I can just say, hey, I'm coming to El Salvador, and we set this interview up, which is such a cool thing.
And the great thing about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is apolitical, because it's above politics. People focus on voting for left or right, not understanding that it's all the same crap. So when people ask me, I don't vote left or I don't vote, I vote for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because nobody controls it.
And the thing I say to my audience, which is mainly a lefty audience, I say the biggest problem lefties have is we don't understand money. And there's a problem if the true left, not the liberal Democrat in America, but the real left, if we had an economic power, we could affect change. So why I tell people to learn about Bitcoin, so that you're not trapped in the banks, the central banking system, which is basically indentured servitude, and we empower ourselves. I mean, getting in the street and protesting. Okay, that's fine. But what if the single greatest act of revolutionary defiance that I've seen in the last 2 years is the GameStop thing? That was brilliant. Nobody got arrested. Nobody got hit with the knights. Nobody got tear gassed, and they crushed these billionaires at their own game.
Yep.
Now, that was a revolution to me. So I think Bitcoin is a revolution. I think Bitcoin is a way to empower ourselves. And again, when you see what like is happening here with Bitcoin Beach and my first Bitcoin, Meta Bitcoin, how they're empowering people, it is a way to empower people. It's not just a way to be rich or whatever. So learn about it.
Get curious.
Get curious. Give yourself permission to not get it at first. I didn't get it at first. You didn't get it at first. Nobody got it at first except Satoshi. So like, or maybe some NSA cryptographers or something. So thanks for watching. Support my show. We're going to have more of a conversation, but it's going to be over on his show, which is Moneydelics. Like psychedelics, but Moneydelics. So watch, he's going to ask me a bunch of questions. So we're going to keep this conversation going over on his YouTube channel. So follow him. I will tweet this out on my Twitter so you can follow him. And if you're a fan of him, follow me. And this is how the community works. And like, share, and subscribe. Go to my website, all that other stuff. Follow the Money Connected Dots, get the truth. And shave your knuckles for justice. Boom.